It's never easy to walk down the undiscovered path, but for Jelly Cleaver, it's in her nature. Hi, my name is Jay Phelps, and this is Ear to the Ground, a documentary series showing a rare glimpse into the life of a creative musician. And today, we're following guitarist, vocalist, and composer Jelly Cleaver.
My name's Jelly. I am primarily a guitarist, also play some bass, compose, produce, host, organise, send emails.
And so where are you from?
Southampton.
Southampton.
Not the most exciting place in the world, but...
How long have you been in London for?
About 6 years, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, I didn't actually have any music teachers. I'm kind of self-taught. I had a piano teacher, and when I started when I was maybe 15, and I loved playing classical piano. Dana Tizard, shout out. Well, actually, when I was at primary school, I had a really great music teacher, Mrs. Lee, taught us the recorder. Was very enthused. You know, you need good, enthusiastic teachers when you're young, I think. Yeah, I was a bit of a nerd. I was just a kind of straight A student, which is a bit boring.
That's not boring. Wow,
Yeah.
straight A student. So what was your favourite subject then, if you could choose?
I mean, I loved English, poetry and stuff. I actually studied history at uni, which was a bit of a rogue choice.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it opens kind of finding out about the past and how the people live and why things are. I think starts opening up quite big philosophical questions, like why do we live the way we do? What, you know, how do we relate to people? Why are things the way they are right now? And then you can open those questions up a lot more outside the discipline of history, I think. But yeah, and maths. I did a lot of maths back in the day. Not anymore.
So why didn't you go into one of those subjects?
I would have made a lot more money, you know. I don't know, something, I mean, I've had jobs outside of music just to kind of pay my way, but yeah, music somehow just never quite let me rest. I kind of had to keep doing it as much as possible. I guess when I started getting into my own kind of music, like as a teenager, I kind of went in a couple of directions, you know. Because when I was a kid, you know, I loved Beyonce and like Mariah Carey and like all these divas who just had like these amazing vocal cords. But well, yeah, when I was a kid, or teenager, I was obsessed with the 60s, like everything about the 60s. So, you know, I loved like Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan, all the folkies, the Byrds, and then rock. So I loved Jimi Hendrix has got to always be one of my main inspirations. Led Zeppelin, a lot of the psychedelic stuff in the 60s, early 70s. What else did I like? Oh, and obviously jazz. Actually, jazz. Yeah, I mean jazz. It's interesting because there was no jazz where I grew up, like nothing. And also I grew up in Southampton's a really, really white area, and so I didn't live with my mum, who's my black half. So like I was, like jazz was really the way I connected with my heritage, in that, and I'm African American heritage. And so it was actually that journey for me where it was like finding out about my own history in a way. You know, Nina Simone, Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, like it started off with the vocalists. And then that led to Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, Wes Montgomery. But yeah, it was very much my own journey, and because I was a nerd, Um, I couldn't rest with just listening to the music. Like I became obsessed with like the origins of jazz and all the research about, the debates about where's Buddy Bolden's Lost Cylinder, and when was the first blues? Was it the 1880s? Did it trace back further? Like all the origins and like the rhythmic patterns, tracing that to like the African coast, and just finding out about the history, the sociology of it, the culture. Just finding out about the culture was really like my own kind of thing. Yeah.
Help you find yourself a bit.
For sure. Yeah.
No, I hear you. I felt the exact same.
I found it really hard because I didn't actually know many musicians. I didn't have anybody to play with growing up musically, or through uni or anything really. So I just had, my guitar and me, and that kind of lends itself to certain things. So I used to write a lot of folk sad songs about how sad I was, which, as a teenager you are. But then I had all this other stuff in my head, but I was just hearing melodies and rhythms and stuff, which I was like, how is this ever gonna happen? How is this ever gonna come out? Because it just was a certain level of complexity. It wasn't 4/4, or it wasn't three chord changes. And I guess just because of the training involved, generally jazz musicians are the only people who can play that kind of music. And so I guess I just had these things in my head when I was just really interested about how to get it out. And so when I came to London, I started forming some bands, and maybe they worked out, maybe they didn't quite.
Who are you?
I'm Beth Hopkins.
And who are you to Jelly?
I probably would say I'm one of Jelly's best mates, and I'm also the sax player in many of her bands, and she's a guitarist in many of my bands.
Okay. So tell me about, you live together.
Yeah, so I've known Jelly, oh my gosh, we
How
met
long have you known
actually
each other?
years and years. So I met Jelly at jam session in Southampton, and we bonded over being the only female instrumentalists in the room. Okay. As is always the case. So I'm a sax player, she's a guitarist, and I think we were mates for a while, and we kind of did a lot of gigs together and things like over the years. Yeah. And then we started working together, and like 6 months in, we kind of just both at Brainchild Festival realised how unbelievably weird we both were. Okay. And we were like, right, we must be best friends forever. And and then we were in each other's bands. So she's in my band Queen Colobus, I'm in her band Jelly Cleaver, and then we're now in a band All Day Breakfast Cafe together. And then we started living together, and I've now lived with her for almost 3 years. So I'd probably still know Jelly very well. She's the best person in the world.
Oh, that's so nice.
So good, yeah.
And you guys live in Camberwell?
We live in sunny Camberwell, in a big house full of musicians, so we live together over lockdown and everything, so
great.
It was lovely. Our neighbours kind of hate us a bit now, but it was a very musical, loud house, but they were really supportive. So.
Oh, that's great.
Jelly has like this amazing speciality of cooking just every vegetable under the sun and putting it in one curry, and then she'll eat that for like a month. Okay. But then she'll also, in the meantime, she'll get you know those like vats of hummus. She'll go and get one of them and just cane through that. Like she'll just absolutely go for it. That, and then like maybe a bagel or something, and that, or like a pitta. That's what she likes. But she just she's like a big vegetable vat of things. I mean, what can you not say about her as a musician? I mean, she's one of the most talented artists of our time, I think. Like, her guitar playing, I mean, I don't actually know how to describe Jelly as an artist other than, like, completely unique and extortionately talented. Like, it's just beyond this realm. I think, like, her guitar playing has pushed a really different kind of sound as well. I think that she's obviously, she's so into jazz, you can always hear jazz coming from her room. And there's always, you know, you're like, who's cooking in the kitchen? Oh, it's Jelly, because there's like some roaring trumpet solo happening or something, you know, it's always Jelly. But she also, I mean, because of her love of the DIY scene and punk and, you know, like Led Zeppelin, things like early rock and things, she pushes all that together, so she makes this grungy sound, you know. And then her as a vocalist as well, just sends you into high heaven. And then, as proven tonight at the Crypt, right, she just, as a composer, is next level. And she's really undiscovered, and that's the anger, like within, I think quite a lot of us in this community is like, yeah, that a lot of people aren't, you know, discovered for what they should be yet is the important phrase. But Jelly's composing, I mean, I know that she was nominated for an Ivor Novello Award, you know, but it's not enough. I mean, she should be up there composing for so many different things, because the range of her composing. She composes all the music, almost all the music for All Day Breakfast Cafe. That's like disco, right? This evening, that, you know, what we just heard was like proper blues, that last one, right? And just the most stunning, like, lyrics and the actual scoring of it. I mean, there's just like no end. I mean, last gig I did with her was at We Out Here Festival. She had like a 12-piece orchestra on stage, you know, like there's a string section, there's a horn section, and she writes it all herself in her room. And her bed, she's like on a bed that's got a mattress and then a mattress, so she's like Princess and the Pea. And then she's got completely covered, her wall is completely covered in gold glitter curtains. So if you ever see Jelly on stage and she's wearing all gold, she sleeps like that too. Like, there's just gold glitter curtains around her whole room. It's so funny. But yeah, she's one of the greatest artists of our time, without a doubt. I love her with all my heart. She's actually the best person, and she needs to be heard.
Yeah.
She needs to be heard.
Back into the club.
And during lockdown, she phoned me up and asked if she could use the venue to practice, rehearse, make noise, because her neighbours weren't so friendly about music.